Going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one again about the Browns defense.
Hey, this is E.T. again. I don't know who we need to blame. Do we need to blame the defense for giving up and just collapsing like that in the fourth quarter with 82 seconds left? Do we need to blame Joe Woods? Joe Woods didn't send no real pressure at Flacco all game. Flacco sat back in that pocket, patting that ball, picking our secondary apart. I thought it was 2012. I thought he was on the Ravens about to go win a Super Bowl, man. I know Miles getting double teamed, but he still got to make a play. Your number one overall pick, people could want him to be Defensive Player of the Year. These are the type of games when the odds are stacked against you and everything's going to hell when one of your best players need to step up. I don't know why Denzel wasn't man on Garrett Wilson all game. He should have been traveling with him. I don't know what the secondary's doing. Second game, miscommunication, blown coverages. Seems like they don't even know the scheme. Joe Woods needs to stop playing so much zone and let those athletes do their thing. You know, we got to regroup. They got to get this out their mind. We got Pittsburgh. We need to take care of business and go ahead and lead the division and try to just hang on as much as possible. So thank you. Have a nice day.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Let's welcome in Eddie McDonald, Dog Pound Daily. So, Eddie, I know you've written an article about this. We've had a couple of questions. Defense, is it the players? Is it Joe Woods? What do you think led to the collapse? And again, I know you wrote an article. Take us through what your thought process was there.
Yes, I'm glad to be back, getting back into the school mix. Working in a middle school, schedule was not favorable for me, but now it is. But I did write an article about how they need to reevaluate Joe Woods, and it's a total team effort on both sides, the defensive coordinator Joe Woods and the entire defense. You have Myles Garrett, who is one of the premier pass rushers in the NFL, and he was non-existent for most of the game yesterday. He did have the one sack, getting him a half a sack behind Clay Matthews, but he has to make plays, and especially when Jadeveon Clowney went down with the ankle injury, he's got to step up and make a play. He's the leader of this defense. He's the leader of this team. He needs to step up and make a play. A former number one overall pick. A lot of guys and fans want him to be Defensive Player of the Year. He's never had a vote for that, and there's a reason for that. It's because he disappears late in games and sometimes late in season. The secondary, the communication is all out of whack. To me, that falls on Joe Woods. More so than the players. That's a communication issue is always a coaching issue, and at least from the sports I've ever played and from watching sports my whole life, that falls on the coaching staff. So I don't. No, I think last night when I wrote the article after the game, I was still angry at the fact that, we just blew this 13-point lead with 1:55 left to Joe Flacco, who, as the caller on the voicemail said, looked like the 2012 Ravens starting quarterback. He torched us for 307 yards, 4 touchdowns, was relatively clean all game. He had the 2 sacks. Clowney and Garrett both got him once. But it falls on everyone, and there has to be a lot of finger point, like Miles said, at each other, at themselves. So like this, point at me. I did this wrong. Miles took some blame. Denzel Ward and Grant Delpit were sort of throwing blame towards each other. I don't know. But something needs fixed. And if it's not fixed by Thursday, then Joe Woods, I fear, might be out of a job. And as I wrote in the article for Dog Pound Daily, I do not condone, any firings or anyone being out of a job for any reason. But this is the NFL. This is a much bigger business than, what we work in. So, something has to give with the defensive coordinator and better be fixed by Thursday, or there's going to be a whole lot more conversations to have.
Well, the other thing the caller mentioned is getting after Joe Flacco. The one thing that, and I've said it before here, if you're having communication issues in your secondary, you can't get crazy and send all kinds of blitzes and those kind of things, because that requires more communication. And if you're having issues keeping a guy from getting behind you, imagine what you're going to create if all of a sudden, okay, we're vacating this area of the field to bring pressure. Now we also have to cover this area. It all builds into one. It builds upon each other.
That's a great point, and a lot of people don't get that. And they were pressuring Joe Flacco yesterday. I think they had, I forget what the actual number was, but they were one of the top teams in the league yesterday and this week for pressures, but it just wasn't amounting to anything. You can pressure him all you want, but if he's sitting there and step up in the pocket and launch these, short dump-off passes or the long balls, on the busted coverages, it's not going to, spell good. And then another thing that a lot of people are not talking about is the special teams play. that is another issue of where the blame goes. What Amari Cooper was doing on that, I have no idea. I don't know if he didn't think the ball had gone 10 yards and was just preventing the Jets from getting there. But you have to dive on that ball. You have to secure that. If he does, that's a win. But yeah, the pressure, it's there. But now Clowney is out on Thursday, they said earlier. So Isaiah Thomas is going to get a chance to step in. Alex Wright will get a chance to step in. Wright will probably be the starter. But yeah, you're right. If you can pressure him all you want, but you can't send too much pressure or the busted coverages happen, especially with the lack of communication.